Like all modern movements, it starts with a tweet. Dr. Beth Nowski, upon leaving an academic conference, crowed about how great the conference was and her excitement on what they were going to be accomplishing. But in her follow-up tweet, she said, "I'm so glad that I skipped the dues-paying crap of a tenure-track position." How many junior faculties get to sit in a meeting like this? What's interesting about that is she is a doctor, trained to become a professor at school, and she didn't go that route. And what was founded was the Alt-Academia movement, or ALT-AC is the hashtag if you want to look it up, where PhD and doctoral candidates look at the training and hiring system and they discovered a pyramid scheme where the people at the top are benefiting from the slave labor of all the people down at the bottom. And it's because the people at the top are setting the standards for training and hiring, which is a lot like what's happening with law students today. What's interesting about the PhD and doctoral candidates is their employment outcomes look pretty good over the last couple decades. About 65 to 70% of them have a job upon leaving their program. But what's changed since the 1970s is tenure-track positions have dropped from 50% of faculty to 30% of faculty. So all of these people getting employed are now in contract positions, postdoctoral fellowships, adjunct faculties, short-term commitments with no long-term gains. My favorite is that little blue line at the bottom, the humanities. You get a PhD in humanities, you've got a 56% chance of getting a job when you come out of school. And that 56% number should be pretty familiar because that's the number of law students in 2012 that had long-term, full-time jobs. What's more interesting to me about that data is that only 40% of the class of 2012 is actually practicing law as we traditionally define it. They're coming out, they're not finding jobs, and so they're having to go into something else. And we've created a gated system, both in this doctoral world and in the JD world, where you've got a core group in the center, and the rest of the people are fenced off on the outside, looking in. What's interesting about the Alt-AC movement, though, is they started really examining those people on the outside. And they found that the median salary for PhDs that leave academia is higher in every field. That's the blue bar here. They leave their chosen profession, the one for which they're trained, and they get paid better. That's really interesting to me. If we look at the same data from the ABA's 2012 graduating class, we're going to see that close to 30% take their legal knowledge and legal skills and go into something different. Business and industry, government, public interest. These are not positions for which they're necessarily trained, but they're going out and they're taking them now. And if we look at Robert Half Legal's 2013 survey on salaries, we're going to see that they get paid better. First-year associates is blue. 0 to 3 years experience in-house counsel is red. Both in the lower portion of salary and in the higher portion, the alternative legal career gets paid better, but we're not training students for these better jobs that are out there. That's a problem. It becomes even more important when you take a look at the After the JD study, which found that 24% of the class of 2000 that did go out and practice law has now left the practice of law and is working in other fields. We're creating a large system of highly knowledgeable, highly trained people who don't have a career for which we're training them. Now, the Scholarly Communication Institute took a look at the PhD candidates that they have that are going into these Alt-AC jobs, and they decided to study them with the academic rigor you would expect of doctoral candidates. And what they found in a survey of employers who are hiring these Alt-AC candidates, doctors, is that there are a couple things that the employers want from them, with the top two being project management and technical skills. When the SCI turned to the Alt-AC employees, these doctors who are now working outside of academia, what they found the top two things they were trained for is analytic skills and research. Sounds a little bit like being trained to think like a lawyer. Project management is all the way down at the bottom here at 9%, and technical skills not even on the chart. So the complaints of not being trained to actually go out and do your job happens to scientists as well as lawyers. What's different about the Alt-AC movement is they decided to come up with lessons that they should be applying to their curriculum. And in a report called Humanities Unbound, the first thing that they said is we need to evaluate and modify our graduate courses. What we've done for 100 years isn't working. It's time to change. I think that applies to law schools as well. It's no longer about just reading case law and taking one exam at the end of a semester. They also said in Humanities Unbound that we need to rethink standard methods courses to include collaborative projects. Contract law doesn't happen with just one person. It happens with clients, other parties, and we should be training our students to come out of class knowing how to work with other people. It should be built into the functionality. We should also examine the type of jobs we're promoting, both implicitly and explicitly. If only 40% of our law students are going out and becoming lawyers, we need to make sure that we're training the other 60% for other jobs as well. Professors tend to train professors. That's what's happening now. We need to change that. And lastly, Humanities Unbound recommended that we need to make a stronger effort to track former students. And the reason they say this is so we can continually reiterate curricula to provide the best value for students coming in, taking a look at present and emerging opportunities. There are 2 places where we can actually start applying this right now. In the ABA's Task Force on the Future of Legal Education, point C said we need more different programs. Schools should iterate. And they also said that we need to focus on delivering value for students. I think the Humanities Unbound report plugs into these exactly. So lastly, when you hear that old canard, you can do anything with the JD, numbers are telling us you probably will have to. But with an alt-legal approach, you'll at least be prepared for it. Thank you very much.